The first Byzantine attack hit like a wall of steel. As sunrise spread across the plains near the Yarmouk River, thousands of armored Byzantine cavalry surged forward through the dust, while imperial banners stretched endlessly across the horizon behind them. Then the battlefield exploded. Horses crashed into shields, spears shattered, arrows darkened the sky. Entire sections of the Muslim front lines were thrown backward almost immediately as heavy cavalry smashed into crowded formations with terrifying force. Some soldiers vanished beneath the dust before they even understood what was happening. Others could only hear the chaos around them: screaming horses, commanders shouting, metal crashing against metal. And as more Byzantine formations continued emerging across the battlefield, a terrifying realization spread through the army of Khalid ibn al-Walid. They might not survive the first day of Yarmouk. The Byzantine commanders knew the battle had to begin with overwhelming pressure. If the Muslim lines broke early, the war in Syria could end before Khalid fully stabilized the battlefield. So the attacks came fast. Wave after wave of Byzantine infantry advanced behind heavily armored cavalry, while archers fired into crowded defensive formations across the plains. Dust rose so heavily that entire sections of the battlefield became difficult to see. The impact was immediate. Muslim infantry struggled to hold formation as cavalry charges slammed into shields and forced defenders backward step by step. In some areas, soldiers fought so closely together they could barely swing their weapons properly. Meanwhile, Byzantine cavalry kept pushing aggressively against the flanks, searching for weak points that could split the battlefield apart completely. The organized battlefield that existed at sunrise was already disappearing. Yarmouk was turning into chaos. As the fighting intensified, sections of the Muslim army began losing cohesion under the pressure. Some cavalry units were forced backward after repeated Byzantine assaults, while exhausted infantry desperately tried closing gaps forming across the battlefield. The heat made everything worse. Dust-covered armor, shields, faces, and weapons as wounded soldiers stumbled through collapsing formations trying to regroup. Then another Byzantine charge crashed into vulnerable sections of the line. The impact nearly shattered parts of the battlefield completely. For a moment, it looked like the pressure might become unstoppable. Some soldiers reportedly believed the army was dangerously close to collapse. The Byzantine forces were larger, better armored, still attacking aggressively from multiple directions at once. Meanwhile, the Muslim defenders fought through exhaustion, confusion, and constant cavalry pressure as battlefield control became harder with every passing hour. And the worst part was psychological. The Byzantine momentum still felt unstoppable. By midday, the battlefield near Yarmouk had become almost impossible to control. Dust storms swept across the fighting, while wounded horses crashed through broken formations and archers fired blindly into smoke and confusion. Some commanders struggled to communicate with nearby units at all. Men shouted orders they could barely hear over screaming horses and constant metal collisions echoing across the plains. Entire formations disappeared inside the dust. Others were forced backward under repeated cavalry assaults as Byzantine pressure kept increasing across the front lines. The battlefield no longer felt organized. It felt like survival. Wounded soldiers crawled through the dirt searching for safety, while exhausted defenders desperately tried stabilizing collapsing sections before panic spread further. And still the Byzantine army kept advancing. More cavalry, more infantry, more pressure driving into vulnerable areas. The army of Khalid ibn al-Walid was still holding the battlefield, but barely. As the day continued, entire sections of the battlefield came dangerously close to collapse. Byzantine cavalry pushed deeper into weakened areas while exhausted Muslim defenders struggled desperately to stabilize the lines before panic spread across the army. Retreating soldiers collided with reinforcements moving forward through the dust and confusion. Visibility collapsed. Orders arrived late. Wounded men covered the plains near Yarmouk, and still the Byzantine army kept advancing. For the first time during the battle, it truly seemed possible that Khalid's army could be destroyed before the campaign even fully developed into a long war of exhaustion. But somewhere inside the chaos, Khalid ibn al-Walid was already studying the battlefield carefully, watching collapsing pressure points, watching Byzantine cavalry movements, watching weak openings beginning to appear inside the advancing enemy formations. And while Yarmouk descended deeper into disaster, Khalid began preparing the counterattack that could change the entire war. The first day of Yarmouk had nearly shattered the battlefield. The Byzantine army still had momentum. The Muslim lines were exhausted, and sections of the front had already come dangerously close to collapse. But while the empire believed victory was getting closer, Khalid ibn al-Walid was preparing something deadly. A fast-moving counterattack designed to stop the Byzantine advance before the battlefield completely broke apart. And in the next phase of Yarmouk, the battle would begin changing in ways the Byzantine commanders never expected.